answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connor's USA. Larry Connor's USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Who refuse to acknowledge this genocide. When I get to 3, I want you to say ceasefire now. 1, 2, 3. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! I want to ask you one final thing, to join me in a chant. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Eid Mubarak.
That could well be the next mayor of New York City. Mamdani, meeting at a Muslim rally in the Jamaica, Queens area, leading chants, not just anti-Semitic, but hating Jews. I know he said free Palestine, but do you understand what that means? That means the free Palestine cry means all the way from the Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. That would wipe out the nation of Israel and kill all Jews. This is the man who ends up coming out as a top-ranked contender in the New York City primary, now will carry the Democrat banner into the general election. Current Mayor Eric Adams may be able to garner enough support from Cuomo if he drops out, and Curtis Sliwa, who's running as a Republican, to hang on. But there's something more at stake here, not just what will happen in New York City, but the ripple effects across the nation and around the world. And here we are looking at this possibility going into in our Independence Day, the 4th of July. No King's Day. We're not for kings. We're for our president and our Constitution. And we're also, of course, in favor of free speech, which allows an idiot like this to go out and preach hate and basically vomit vile comments, which he does. He's the new darling of the leftist. And how far can he go with it? We're going to get into that in more detail. Welcome aboard. Hour number 1, Larry Connor's USA, July 3rd, 2025. Tomorrow is our Independence Day. 250 years of this nation. What we have gone through, what we've achieved. And we're now at this brink. With Larry Connor's USA, you do know you're going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. I'll give you a couple examples in our next hour. Now, if you're a farmer, you might certainly be aware of this, but many don't. The death tax that will kill American farmers. I'll have that coming up in our next hour. And later this hour, Dr. James Thorp on what we did to our children that were unborn, vaccinating them while they were in the womb, vaccinating their mothers, the most vulnerable of all children, those yet to be born. What harm have we caused? Frightening. At the same time, should serve as a warning the next time around, because there will be another time. Reminding you also, when Larry Connor's USA is on the air, we are live streaming. You can watch the program. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connor's USA, Rumble, or Facebook. Everything later goes up as a podcast at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, and Larry Connor's USA Facebook. And I repeat that every program because I know many and more are joining us on a daily basis. And that is thanks in large part to you as well, by the way. And I appreciate you spreading the word about Larry Connor's USA Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. on NewsTalkSTL. And reminding you, you get the app on your phone, the free NewsTalkSTL app. You can put it on your phone, cost you nothing. We need minimum information just so we can email each program to you so you don't have to go search for them when we're done. And we do not sell your information. And so here is Mamdani stepping forward and basically calling, when he says free, free Palestine, he's talking about death to Israel. That's really what it equates to. Make no mistake about it. That's exactly what it is. It's the same thing students were shouting on the campuses, and they were letting them do it, and they were letting them bully and chase and threaten Jewish students. And the universities were doing nothing about it until Trump said, you know what, you're going to continue to allow that? We will take your federal dollars. And all of a sudden, they came to Jesus. They began to realize we need to protect our Jewish friends, our Jewish students, because we want those dollars. And if Trump takes dollars from us, a lot of our programs will disappear. We'll have to lose our professors and so forth. Dig into your own damn endowment fund. You've got the money to pay for it. You just want to live off the teat of the federal government and at the same time indoctrinate students, not teach them. Now, dealing with Mamdani, I have told you repeatedly, if you listen to this program, watch what is happening in Europe and how it could spill over into the U.S., talking about the mass migration, which we've certainly seen. And parts of Europe now, they do not resemble what they were 5 years ago, much less 10, 20 years ago. And here's an analysis of what's happened to the United Kingdom.
The mayor of London is Muslim. The mayor of Birmingham is a Muslim. The mayor of Leeds is Muslim. The mayor of Blackburn is Muslim. The mayor of Sheffield is Muslim. The mayor of Oxford is a Muslim. The mayor of Luton is a Muslim. The mayor of Oldham is a Muslim. The mayor of Rochdale is a Muslim. All of this was achieved by only 4 million Muslims out of the 66 million people in England. Today in England there are over 3,000 mosques. There are over 130 Sharia courts in England, and there are more than 50 Sharia councils. 78% of Muslim women do not work and receive state support and free accommodation. 63% of Muslims do not work and receive state support and free housing. State-supported Muslim families have an average of 6 to 8 children who all receive free accommodation. Every school in the UK is required to teach about Islam. The #1 most common baby name in England is Muhammad. This is not immigration. This is invasion.
It is invasion, and it's not anti-Muslim to point these out. 4 million Muslims, and fastly increasing in the UK, England, out of 80 million total Europeans are English inside the UK. They're certainly allowed to carry out their religion, but they are now requiring it to be taught in all schools in the United Kingdom. And they're also stepping forward and pointing out that how many of them are on the dole for UK taxpayers, and they're not doing anything other than popping out babies to continue to increase. And if they have Sharia courts, what'd she say, 320 Sharia courts? Let me correct that number. 170 Sharia courts, 300 mosques spread across London. And all of this is to change the face of England. And not assimilate, but to take over. To take over. You will not recognize England in another 20 years, maybe shorter. I want to share something with you on dealing with this issue. This was written as an opinion piece by Jacob Howland, who writes about politics. He said, it is official anti-Zionism is a Western movement. Jew hatred trending among millennials and older Gen Z. And talking about on June the 28th, just the other day, a rapper, Bobby Villain, I don't know what his name is, chants of death to the IDF were broadcast by the BBC, echoed by tens of thousands of people in the live audience of 200,000 at a festival, many wearing or rather waving Palestinian flags, again shouting, hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free. He says the open hatred of Jews is flourishing in periods of social instability, when the decency and decorum that protects Jews from assault by fellow citizens is suspended. The claim that Jews killed Christian children to use their blood in the preparation of Passover offered an excuse to torture and murder whole communities from the 12th century. The 12th century, that was in effect until at least 1946, basically, when Jews were slaughtered in Poland, as we well know. Now we had the blood libel was back in a new form, allegation that Israel is targeting Gazans, especially children, for genocide. Celebrating the spilled blood and broken bodies of Jews now as the modern-day way of life. A blood libel expressing emphasis, emotions of envy and hatred, buried deep in the psyche of many, but now it's coming to the top, to the surface. That's the opinion of this writer, and I think a lot of points are worth echoing. Where are we going? Coming up, I do have some great news for our economy. Once again, shocking those who hate America, who hate Donald Trump.
This jobs market is like the Energizer Bunny. Every single time we expect it to run out of steam, it just keeps going and going. So these new numbers show that the U.S. economy added 147,000 jobs in June. That was well ahead of the expectation of about 118,000, well ahead of some whispers that we heard on Wall Street of a sub 100,000 number. So this is indeed beating expectations. We were also expecting a slowdown. We did not get that. This is basically in line with May, which was revised higher. It's also good news. The unemployment rate was expected to go up. It didn't. It went down to 4.1%. That is a very healthy number. This is still relatively historically low. And again, it's below the 4.3% that we had expected.
And that's what CNN is reporting. They would love to fudge the numbers and everything, but they're right there. They can't get around it. And acknowledging record numbers. We added 147,000 workers to payrolls in June. These are not government jobs. And the unemployment rate is now down to 4.1%. Wage gains continued to go up. The private sector adding 74,000 of those jobs for the private sector, and the public sector did add 73,000, and yet the government payroll continued to shrink, falling by 7,000 in June. Construction jobs, 15,000 added. Other services up in various retail and so forth. That's all good news. And then don't forget the big, beautiful bill that's proposed by Trump for those who work in service industries, especially guesting, hosting, waiting. No taxes on tip. Stephen Miller, White House aide.
It is the largest tax cut and reform in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, 100% expensing for new factories. Think about that. Every single business owner with a dream of manufacturing in America can deduct 100% of that cost to make the American dream come true here in the United States.
That's great news, and more of them will do that. But I want to share something with you. Congressman Jamie Raskin was asked, what do you think? What do you think about this no taxes on tip thing? You know his response? His response is sheer evidence of how disconnected some of these congressional Democrats are from the working class. Oh, they'll claim we got your back, but they don't really give a damn about you. You know what Jamie Raskin said? Oh, I haven't really given that any thought about no taxes on tips because I didn't think they were serious about that. Really? Now, those who work in service industry and rely on tips, that's a major amount of income for them that does not have to be reported as income. No taxes on tips. The proposal itself should shout from the mountaintop, this is a way forward for all Americans. I don't care how low the job is you're working. If you're working in a small pancake house or whatever you are, if you're getting a tip, you no longer have to report it. Not that many of you were, and not everyone was. I understand that. But if your employer is kind of keeping tabs and watching, you can get yourself crosswise with the IRS if you're not careful. But Jamie Raskin, when asked, so what do you think about the proposed no taxes on tips? Jamie Raskin, in his aloofness, I hadn't really looked at it. I didn't think anybody was really serious about it. He's also saying, I don't think anybody really cares. They're not going to benefit. There are a hell of a lot of people that will benefit, and they want it, and they are looking forward to it. But you elite leftists who want to claim, oh, we're blue-collar labor support all the way, you are lying and lining your pockets with money. No taxes from tips. Oh, I just hadn't thought about it. I didn't think they were serious. That's how out of touch they are with common Americans. And I don't care about your race, your ethnicity, your religion. If you're a hardworking American, that should tell you everything about where the Democrat leadership is. Clueless. Absolutely clueless. Coming up, my guest, Dr. James Thorp, we've had on before. He's testified before Congress numerous times on the damage done to children during the COVID vaccinations, especially unborn children. The reason we're going back over this is because there will be another time and you need all the information. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who'll want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code And how do you get the code to the speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. We're having trouble at this point getting our connection set up with Dr. Thorp. He, along with Celia Farber, authored a book titled Sacrifice, How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. And talking about maternal fetal medicine, which they have specialized in for some time. And Dr. Thorp has testified numerous times before Congress on this very issue. Our own host on our Saturday morning program, Dr. Randy Tobler, is also a pediatrician and obstetrician, I should say. And he's also acknowledged the concerns you must have about giving any kind of vaccines to a woman. You know it goes directly to the fetus. And if you remember the latest decision on COVID out of the scientific community was, well, we can give it to kids as young as 6, and we can give it to expectant mothers. If you're giving it to expectant mothers, you're giving it to children less than 6 months of age. Dr. James Thorp now joining us. Doctor, glad to have you on board.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, the reason I wanted to go back over this, and you have been part of those protesting and appearing in front of Congress, board-certified obstetrician, gynecologist, maternal fetal medicine physician, more than 40 years. We were giving basically COVID shots directly to unborn babies, as I said, just by giving it to their mother. I mean, that's always been the same.
That's exactly right.
I mean, pregnant women are told, don't drink, don't smoke, it will harm the fetus. And yet we just ignored that, quote, science.
That's exactly right.
And how are we going to avoid it the next time?
Right. You give a pregnant woman a vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, and I stated 4 years ago that it goes right through the placenta into the fetal blood, and the fetus, the unborn, is vaccinated. And this is now confirmed and proven in peer-reviewed medical journals, including the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. You're 1,000% right. This is the deadliest drug that has ever been released to the human population in the history of medicine. This is the greatest, most egregious breach of medical ethics in world history.
Now, the question is going to come, so what harm? Where's the harm? Where are the children that are suffering? What's happened to them?
Well, number one, there's a substantial increase in killing these preborns, these preborn children in the first trimester, in the second trimester, and in the third trimester.
Excuse me. That's because they got a COVID vaccine? That's the linkage or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a substantial increase in miscarriages, in fetal death, and then there's a substantial increase in every possible obstetrical complication you could imagine, especially malformations of every organ system in the preborn child, an increase in cervical insufficiency, premature labor, premature rupture of membranes, delivering a premature baby that either dies or is permanently damaged, a severe increased incidence of heart defects, growth restriction, malnutrition in the womb, and then delivery of a baby that is substantially impaired, requiring transfer to the neonatal intensive care unit.
Have you seen some of those? Have you seen some of those yourself?
Absolutely. I've been practicing 46 years. I'm actively practicing. I'm in a very, very busy hospital, not too far away from you, by the way, as we speak. And I've seen, while I was working for SSM Health,
Catholic Healthcare Systems, yeah.
Which you should be well aware of.
Right, in St. Louis.
In just 4.5 years, I saw 27,500 high-risk patients. Now, SSM Health fired me because I testified in front of the United States Senate the first time, and I was on Tucker Carlson. I published extensively on this from the government database and from Pfizer. I gave SSM Health all those publications. They suppressed it. And because they were bribed by $306.9 million to push the COVID-19 vaccines in pregnancy, they had to terminate me for no cause.
Now, those are very strong allegations. You're supporting evidence?
Yes. The supporting evidence is in the public domain. Hospitals were nationally were bribed with $186.9 billion of over 420,000 hospital systems and clinics in the United States of America in quid pro quo agreements that would appear to be bribes, better described as bribes, to follow the draconian narratives of the HHS. I also have proof from my research team, including Maggie Thorp, JD, who together with me have crafted a Freedom of Information Act request from the Department of Health and Human Services involving communications and agreements with the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists that control 60,000 OBGYN doctors. And that Freedom of Information request was a gold mine. It proved that, yes, indeed, there was a quid pro quo agreement and that there was collusion, there was conspiracy, there was fraud. And I would also opine that this was consistent with mass assault and battery and mass third-degree murder.
Yeah.
Because
the children are the ones who are, I mean, obviously concerned about you and your career and your reputation, but even you, as you just related, the children are the real issue.
Children, well, really, all people that got the vaccine.
Right.
But in my specialty, it's the preborn and the newborn and the pregnant moms. Listen, there's always been this golden rule in pregnancy. The golden rule of pregnancy is you never, ever use a novel substance. We don't even allow our patients to eat certain foods or drink alcohol. We should have known this from the thalidomide disaster and from the DES, or the diethylstilbestrol disaster of in our lifetimes, just from last century.
Why did we not? Why was all of that knowledge thrown out? I remember the thalidomide disaster. It was basically going to be given to women to help with the pregnancy. Ended up massive deformities of children.
Absolutely correct. Why did we do it? We did it because it was planned. We did it. We targeted women and pregnant women. That was their strategy. Why did they do this? This was not Operation Warp Speed. This is proven. Now, this is fact. This is not my opinion. This is fact and proven. This was a DOD project that was started back in 2012, and this was DOD DARPA. And this is proven by multiple sources. And so, you know, gosh, you can Google DOD, not Google, but use a search engine that's not biased. Put in DOD DARPA, ADEPT, ADEPT in P3. It'll take you straight to the DARPA page where they planned at that time in 2012 to develop a mRNA product or vaccine for future bioweapon.
All right, now to that point, I'm because we're getting short on time, and I would encourage folks to follow you up on what you're suggesting, because the mRNA information is there. Fast forward to the children that were born, they had no complications, but what might be happening to these children as they move forward in life, and are there mothers that were given that at that time?
This is such an important question. The answer is we have no idea because they never tested it. And the other answer is that we believe now there's now 4 studies that suggest that that vaccine mRNA was reverse transcribed and permanently integrated into the DNA of the human beings that got that. So it's very possible that they will be manufacturing large amounts of spike protein for the rest of their lives, causing all kinds of chronic diseases and all-cause mortality.
And for generations. Go ahead, very quickly.
Listen, my book, okay?
Right.
Sacrifice, how the deadliest vaccine in history targeted the most vulnerable. All the proceeds are going to those vaccine injured.
All right, Dr. Thorp, I'm glad I was going to mention it, but again, Sacrifice, how the deadliest vaccines in history target the most vulnerable. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
You bet. Coming up, dealing with legacy lies.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Replacing your windows and doors? Do not settle for ordinary. Go extraordinary. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson, a name trusted for more than 120 years. Their exclusive FiberX material combines the strength and durability of wood with low-maintenance features of vinyl. You get windows and doors twice as strong as vinyl, energy efficient, built to last. For a limited time, get 25% off every window, patio door, or entry door. No payments for 18 months, zero interest. This is their best new client discount. Dial pound 250, say the keyword windows, or visit rbastl.com. Pound 250, keyword windows, rbastl.com. Get your free estimate. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
There's 1,000 miles in 18 hours. I got a double drive down southbound 35. I got the hammer down, Detroit made 525, pushing my ass right down that line.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Is very clear about how
Yes,
many
ma'am.
people are going to be kicked off of health care until you were against the CBO.
No, ma'am. You listen. If you want to do the editorial, just go ahead, and you don't need me on here. But the
These are
CBO,
facts, sir.
I would
I don't
like
have
to
to
see
editorialize.
scores. I would like to see what the economic output of every bill. You as a taxpayer should want that too. And the CBO is the only organization we have. If I could allow a private accounting firm to do it, I would much rather that happen. But the reality is, it would have to be the CBO. And what do you have against knowing how much each bill is spent? Why is the media opposed to that? Why do you all on the left always fight every chance at America knowing what's going on? The problem y'all have with this bill, ma'am, is that it gets government out of our way and lets Americans make some decisions, and maybe hardworking Americans would have a better choice and a better shot at life in this country without you all just telling us how bad things are going and trying to construct, and as you're doing with me, trying to dictate what I've said. And the reality is, the CBO is a partisan organization, and the reality is America has a right to know how much we're spending on every piece of legislation. I cannot believe you as a member of the media would not want open records, and that is exactly what that bill would do.
That's exactly right, and that is Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, and talking about the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. I don't care what your differences are about the Trump big beautiful bill or your praises for. But you want numbers, you want stats, you want to see things in front of you. But they want to make up lies about how bad it is on false information. Absolutely false information. Because they don't care. They do not care about the truth. It doesn't fit their narrative. Oh, but wait, here's a story from NBC Legacy Media that tells the truth about something, and I got to tell you, they're right about this. NBC, during the Morning Joe broadcast, they were talking about these detainees now being held at Alligator Alcatraz. They might attempt to escape. The NBC correspondent said, in the first Trump administration, this was a joke, talking about how Trump wanted a moat around a detention center. Wanted to use a Rio Grande, wanted alligators keep people from crossing into Texas. That was mentioned, by the way. In fact, I even was talking about it. I said, you can put alligators in the Rio Grande. I mentioned that, I know, numerous times. I said, that might stop a lot of that. And well, now they're in this abandoned airport location in the middle of the Everglades, and they now have a detention center that can hold up to 3,500. Trump labeled it Alligator Alcatraz. Well, here's what NBC decided to point out as a fact. Well, one, they're trying to say ICE is not supposed to be punitive. Immigration detention not supposed to be punitive. That's on their website. It's mandated through court orders. There's nothing ICE is doing here that's punitive. They're putting them in a detention center. If they stay in the detention center, they'll be safe. But NBC felt compelled to put up a warning, like a warning label, swallowing poison could kill you. They put up warning, illegals who try to attempt an escape from Alligator Alcatraz, you could suffer real injuries. Ha! You guys break me up. Damn right, if you get out in the swamp and a gator gets you, you're going to suffer some real injuries. Good God, you cannot stay on top of the idiocy that comes out of the left. But here's some other good news for you. That's going to happen next fall, but it got announced late yesterday. Or actually earlier today, correct myself. The Supreme Court has decided it will review state bans on transgender athletes participating in public school sports. They are going to go forward and review it. Oral arguments will be heard later this fall. 2 cases in Idaho and West Virginia, both focused on state laws that prevent biological males from competing on girls' and women's sports teams. Common sense does not rule with some of these leftists. But now the Supreme Court says, you know what, we will take that up as a consideration. One of them allowed a transgender Becky Pepper Jackson to compete on the West Virginia cross-country and track teams. Becky Pepper Jackson qualified for the West Virginia girls high school track team, finishing third in the discus throw, eighth in the shot put. And the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of Pepper Jackson, who had been taking puberty-blocking medication, ruled in favor as a constitutional equal protection clause. Where's the equal protection for the biological women? If Pepper Jackson wants to go through puberty changes and compete against men, it wouldn't have won. It wouldn't have won, wouldn't come anywhere near it, probably. But the West Virginia Attorney General said, referenced the Supreme Court saying, we will take up this case. It is a great day as female athletes in West Virginia will have their voices heard. The people of West Virginia know it's unfair to let male athletes compete against women. That's why we passed this common sense law preserving it, and we're confident the Supreme Court will uphold it. You know, I told you just yesterday, the University of Pennsylvania decided to apologize for allowing a trans swimmer, Leah Thomas, to compete on their women's team. They're apologizing because Leah Thomas competed and won, took girls off the podium that could have won, cut them out of opportunities they could have had. So they're offering, what, an apology? Our bad, so sad, move on. They need to be held accountable, dollar amounts if necessary. And I also told you yesterday that Stanford Medicine in California has decided to stop performing sex change surgeries on patients under 19 years of age. That is now the second major health care provider in California to do so, and that is because Trump was saying we're going to protect our kids from gender ideology. Can't have common sense if you're going to be allowing this stuff to happen. And you know why the University of Pennsylvania backed off and decided to go with a resolution agreement and restore to female athletes all individual swimming records, titles, which were misappropriated by male athletes? UPenn also said we will send a personalized letter of apology to each impacted female swimmer and issue a public statement that we will no longer allow transgender athletes to compete as women. Are we done here now? Can we go on? No, you can't. You can't just walk away like you should still be punished. And every one of those young women should deserve punitive compensation. But at least we're trying to get there one way or the other. On the Mike Ferguson show today, they played a clip of music. Now, as you listen to this coming up, you might have a hard time understanding it, so let me kind of set it up for you here. This clip, Mike said they play it on every 4th of July, or today going into the 4th of July. It rails against terrorists coming into our nation, invaders, thank you, Joe Biden. And basically saying, America, America, what are you going to do when they come for you? Remember the cops theme? What are you going to do? What are you going to do when they come for you? That's pretty much what this is. The answer is strong, and several points needed to be bleeped out, but it is great. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
America.
What you gonna do when we come for you now? It's the dream that we all share. It's the hope for tomorrow. Yeah! McDonald's! Yeah! Walmart! Yeah! Yeah! Baseball! Yeah! NFL! Yeah! Rock and roll! Yeah! Internet! Yeah! Slavery! Yeah! Yeah!
Yeah, America, what are we going to do when they come for you? We're talking about those terrorists coming in, and some of the words are that we will, well, they start with an F. Fry you, finish you off, flush you out. There might be another F word in there. Obviously, it had to be beeped numerous times. But I just wanted to point out to you, there are those out there that still want to make sure that we are not simply going to roll over in this nation. We're showing it, obviously, with the Trump victory and everything else we're trying to do to make sure that we protect our nation, and our citizens. The number that we've had reported dead just because of fentanyl brought in by the illegals, 300,000+. 300,000+. You ever been to a big university football game where often the stadium is built to hold 80 to 100,000? Imagine that whole stadium in graves, and then even more, 3 times over. And these guys are still in the midst. A border agent was killed the other day by a trans cult suspect. I'm calling him suspect. He's going through trial. And the lawyers for this suspect say the Trump administration is fast-tracking the death penalty case on this. Good. Good. Or drop him in the middle of the Everglades, see if he can come out. We've got crime happening all over this nation. Some may or may not be tied to illegals, but it's just this attitude. We can do what we want to whomever we want. You know, they had a Chicago drive-by yesterday, a mass shooting. It left 4 dead, 14 others wounded in the Chicago drive-by. Now, did that have anything to do with the illegals? I don't know, but it's this attitude. But I will tell you this, and again, this one I don't know if it had anything to do with illegals. But imagine you've got a child that gets an internship lined up in Congress. In this particular case, this is a 21-year-old student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He's in Washington, D.C. He and another adult female and a 16-year-old, they were around the same area. Whether or not they were together wasn't clear. This 21-year-old, Eric Tarpian Yakum, an intern for Congressman Ron Estes, Republican of Kansas. Can you imagine this kid with a bright future ahead of him? He got an internship to be in D.C. and work with a member of Congress. He had a future ahead there. He was a senior majoring in finance with a minor in political science. He had all kinds of opportunities ahead of him until what happened? Until he's with some of his friends in D.C., the 1200 block of 7th Street Northwest, and somebody starts shooting, multiple people coming out of a car, and just began shooting wildly. They don't even think this kid was the intended target. But he's the one being put in a grave. And just the other day, they had a House staffer victim in an armed carjacking, again in a Washington neighborhood. D.C., how do you like your crime in our nation's capital? Thank your mayor, who was pushing for defunding police. Such a shame, a 21-year-old. You get a call in the middle of the night and Your child who went off to have a great job in D.C. Now you're planning a funeral. Coming up, learning about the death tax on farmers. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40, 314-644-0885, EsquireSportsMedicine.com, EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545. 636-689-0545. Or visit priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai.
This is NewsTalkSTL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
The newly released Natalie's June jobs report hiring shattered expectations, easy for me to say. 147,000 jobs added just last month. Unemployment also ticked down to 4.1%. Let's bring in Stephen Myron, Council of Economic Advisors Chairman. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So 147,000 jobs beating expectations. What's your analysis of it?
This was a great report, and it's the fourth time in a row the president has beat expectations on Jobs Day, four times in a row. And not only did he beat expectations, but he beat the forecast for 78 out of 79 professional economists that submitted their forecast to the Bloomberg consensus. So that means the president is once again proving that the haters and the doomsayers don't know what they're talking about.
No, they do not. They do not. The job numbers just continue to improve. Could there be a dip at some point? Let me put it to you this way. That was a Fox News report. In the last hour, I'll let the audience hear. You didn't hear the first hour? Shame on you. I know you can't hear every hour. I understand that. You have a life to live. And I will always say family first. But that's why we also put up every program as a podcast so you can pull it up later. But in the previous hour, the listeners were hearing CNN give out the same numbers and talking about how shocking it is. No one expected it to be this good because we had all these little chicken littles running around. The sky is falling with Trump coming back into office. He's going to kill jobs. He's going to, everything's going to go up in cost. We pointed out yesterday, gasoline prices are about 40 cents a gallon lower this Independence Day holiday compared to a year ago. 40 cents a gallon. And some are saying we might actually see regular gasoline, at $2 or less, maybe before the end of the year. We'll see. But you've got those that just continue want to batter Trump. But this latest report, the Department of Labor, these numbers can be adjusted, and they were during the Biden administration, but they were often having to readjust them severely because they were overstating how great they were. If there's any adjustment here, I'll be watching for it because I call balls and strikes. If it turns out that we did not add 147,000 workers to the payroll, I will be calling it out. I mean, if it ends up being something like, typo is only 47,000 workers, well, I will call that out. And I wouldn't call that a typo. I'd say you're trying to get one past the public. But I don't expect that kind of action to take place. So right now, as it stands, the June numbers from the Department of Labor, the U.S. employers added 147,000. The economists, the best they were expecting was 110,000. Oh, that's only 37,000 jobs difference. But it's well above their expectation. That's, 30% better, almost? And they expected the unemployment rate to tick up to 4.3%. The unemployment rate dropped 4.1%. Now, I understand 4.1 compared to 4.3, that doesn't seem like a big number, 0.2, but it is when you look at the nation as a whole and the economy and the inflation rates. Plus, wage gains continued in June. Average earnings rose by 0.2% in the month. That's not a lot, but that's better than losing. And they're up by 3.7% from a year ago, well above the rate of inflation. Private sector adding 74,000 of these jobs. Public sector adding 73,000, yet the federal government payroll continued to shrink by 7,000. Construction adding 15,000 jobs. Manufacturing, 7,000. Service sectors, 68,000. And 58,000 of those in healthcare, social assistance. Leisure and hospitality adding 20,000. That means people were traveling more, going out to eat more, and there's a need for it, and the people were there. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. Here we are on the eve of Independence Day. 250 years ago, minus one day, this nation was founded. Think about that. 250 years ago. What we have achieved is great and mighty, and yet we got a lot of stains and nasty things have happened during that 250 years, but we're still here. And with Trump in the helm, we're stronger than ever. We've dealt with world wars around the world, obviously. We've dealt with some we should not have gotten involved in. We've had our own war inside, the so-called war between the states. Family against family, brother against brother. We had an issue of slavery, nasty, nasty stain upon our history. But you should know about it. And yet here we are 250 years later. I don't know if our forefathers could even imagine 250 years later, with the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution still be the rule of our land. There are many in our land that don't want that to continue. They would love to see it go away. But we fight at every step. We're on 6 to 8 p.m. every Monday through Friday with Larry Connors USA. And reminding you, with this program, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education. Now, I'm going to give you some excellent education in a moment about the agriculture death tax. But first, let me remind you that when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. Very easy. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook or Twitter, Larry Connors USA, Rumble or Facebook. And then everything goes up as a podcast later. Available at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. And every place you go for a podcast, you type in Larry Connors USA, we will be there. That's why I really can't stay on top of every comment or remark somebody sends me, and I regret that. I truly do. I always like to be able to respond to folks immediately, but I get behind and I don't catch up. Every once in a while, I'll grab two or three and get to them maybe a week after they send a remark in. But truly know that I really appreciate you. I do. And I appreciate you supporting our sponsors. All right, the agriculture death tax. I want you to listen first to our Ag Secretary, Brooke Rollins.
There is no alternative. Failure is not an option. The president ran and spoke and cast his vision for the last few years of secure borders and lower taxes and more prosperity and the American dream for everyone. In this role, though, what this bill does for our farmers and our ranchers and really all Americans, putting almost $10,000 on average back into American pockets for our 2 million farmers no longer subject to the death tax. When we talk about the fact that we've lost 180,000 family farms over the last 4 to 5 years, this is a game changer on how we keep farms in the family and out of the hands of the Chinese and foreign ownerships. When we think about what we need to do to ensure our food supply, which really means national security, what this bill does for the reference prices in agriculture and things like 45Z and 100% expensing, it is a game changer for our farmers and ranchers and, frankly, for all of America.
Yeah, for all of America, because we're all going to die at some point. And, of course, the leftists are yelling that. You're going to die. You're going to die. Yeah, we will at some point. But they're trying to frighten you into dying early, I guess. And, of course, if you don't have your estate set up, you haven't talked to somebody like one of my sponsors, Robert Costello. I'm going to have fun with that. Robert Leslie of Leslie Consulting. Then, you know, you need to worry about what happens to your money. But here's the point. The estate tax exemption will drop by 50% as we move forward on January 1, once we get this big, beautiful bill fully signed off. But what we still have as she's talking about farmers and ranchers. In 2025, our current year, the estate of any farmer or rancher with a net worth of over $14 million, that's very good, obviously, if owned by an individual owner, or 28 if married by or owned by a married couple, they had to file an estate tax return after 9 months of the passing. It's been estimated that the tax-exempt status would revert to a prior level, and nearly twice as many farms in every sales class would have to pay estate taxes. An estate covers the entirety of your worldly possessions, your land, your machinery, cash, crops in storage, livestock, and so forth. 80% of an average farm's assets are in real estate alone. This means farmers and ranchers had to plan ahead to scramble to have enough liquid cash to pay the estate tax bill in case someone dies. And as she said, this is all about protecting American farms for Americans, not letting giant conglomerates come in, and certainly Chinese. If you're not in farming and ranching, you think, well, this doesn't bother me. Actually, it does. It does. Because who's going to control that land and what it benefits you and our nation? And think about the families that have had generation after generation on the same land and now have to walk away from it because they can't pay the estate taxes. Closing the border, we're still actively doing that and chasing down illegals. A White House spokesman, Steve Miller, says the Trump bill obviously will protect our nation from such invasions.
The section on this bill enshrining border and homeland security, this is the most far-reaching border security proposal, homeland security proposal in my lifetime. Not just my lifetime, going back to Eisenhower, going back to since we've had conversations about the border. I take this seriously. I've stood by the families whose kids have been murdered by illegal aliens. We made them a promise. Most importantly, the American people voted to fulfill that promise in the last election. This bill fulfills it.
Fulfills that promise. I can't imagine having to go and stand beside someone who lost a loved one because of the invasion that Joe Biden created by opening our border. And it's also, there's a lot of things in the bill. You can have arguments all day about different parts of the bill. But arguments are one thing. Lies are something entirely different. And what you get from the left is a constant lie, 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 because they think they can suck you in, saying this bill will take food out of the mouths of babies. Stephen Miller again.
Here's another one for you. The largest welfare reform in American history. Work requirements on food stamps, work requirements on Medicaid, the two largest welfare programs that exist, and now we are attaching work requirements to those programs. Orders of magnitude larger than the welfare reform that Republicans enacted into law in the 1990s. I am sick and tired of the lies about this bill that have been perpetrated by opportunists who are trying to make a name for themselves. This is the most conservative bill in my lifetime. Tax cuts, defense, border security, homeland security, welfare reform, and the largest spending cut in one bill that has ever been enacted. Let's work together. Let's pass this bill. Let's get it to President Trump's desk by July 4th.
July 4 is an arbitrary deadline that Trump set in place. He really wanted to have it signed by July 4, by tomorrow. Obviously, Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of them are trying to slow it down. Hakeem Jeffries exercised his magic minute, which every congressman can do, saying, I don't think there's been enough said about this, so he took the floor for 7+ hours, keeping a vote from taking place. There are good conservatives, good Republicans, and I say conservatives as well, that don't like everything in the bill. I don't either. I equate it to the fact that sometimes you have to take that medicine that tastes terrible. You don't like it, but it's going to be better for you, if you will. And then you might actually realize you like it. A personal point here aside, if I might, I will always remember I'd come down with a cough or something, and Dad's magic remedy was to heat up a pan on the stove with some whiskey in it. Yep. And add some honey. Stir it around, then make me take 2 big tablespoons. God, oh my. But after a while, Dad, I got a tick on my throat. He said, boy, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not going to get anything. If you did, just go get some honey. He knew I'd kind of like that Jack. And he was right. Couldn't pull one off of him, over him. He even went, and I'm going to admit this to you, my dad has passed, and I love him dearly. But he would always put a line on the bottle of his whiskey as to when he last took anything out of it. When he and Mom were out of town, I might get into it. Yes, I did. 17 plus years of age, and I'd add water to fill it back up to the line, so I'm not getting that much out. But he'd come in from work, Mom would pour him a drink and say, why don't I quit putting so much water in my drink? I didn't put any water in it. Yes, you did. And then he began to think, wait a minute, Larry. I was caught, and I got my due justice. You talk about due process. Due process was a belt across my butt. Now it may days be called child abuse, but it was discipline, good discipline. And I thank him still to this day, and God for giving him to me as my dad. Coming up, DEI under attack continues. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is Silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. I I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out oakstreetinandlounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
I had me girl taught me those things a young man should know. Down on my knees and begging at thee to learn a little bit more. Oh, that woman taught me to pray. I saw heaven every day. All she could.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. The Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security say they've uncovered and killed a multi-million-dollar program put in place by the Biden administration that was pushing for diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. Inclusive environments in schools is what they were doing. I told you with Larry Connors USA, you get not only news, analysis, and opinion, but education. And I think I'm probably going to inform some of you something you were not aware of. Have you heard of the Invent to Prevent program? Invent with the number 2 followed by the word prevent. What is it, Larry? You ask with bated breath. Well, I have an answer for you. You don't think the teacher comes to the class unprepared? Invent to Prevent, by their own website. Targeted violence and terrorism tactics continue to evolve. It takes all of us working together to keep our communities safe. That is a DHS Center for Prevention program and partnership, an experiential learning program empowering high school and college students to design, implement, and measure the success of creative solutions to prevent threats to their schools and their communities. Invent to Prevent gives students, it says, a platform to turn ideas into action, making a real measurable difference. Projects don't just remain concepts. They drive positive change. They strengthen resilience across the nation. God, I'm all for it. Sign me up. Sign me up. And, yeah, there is an application where you can get involved as a student. And you can help spread the word. And then down on the page it says, get inspired. Discover how students across the country are making an impact. And there's a woman in a hijab, and it has a cross-out cyberbullying, as if she's been victimized and bullied. Well, obviously, I don't want that to happen. I don't care what her religion is, or she should not be bullied at schools, period. Nor should Jewish students, nor Christian, nor Hindu, nor Buddhist, nor whatever. The Kristi Noem program found that this very program, designed to provide students with tools to prevent terror and violence, got contracted mainly to, no surprise here. No, if this surprised you, wake up. It got contracted mostly to far left organizations, which then use the curriculum to feed and focus on the DEI, LGBTQ agenda. They're estimating that by the DHS now cutting that project, it's going to save the agency, the Homeland Security, more than $1.5 million. Oh, what the hell? 1.5? That's dimes dropping. That's pennies dropping. It is. But anything we take away from a project like this is good. the DHS Assistant Secretary pointed out, President Trump was given a mandate by the American people, eliminate wasteful government spending, and that's what we're doing. This is clearly waste. Goes on to say, this program was not only wasteful, it was also using public money to support an openly partisan and political organization. And thereby I also raise, let's do the same thing with the public broadcasting system. Take all their money away. Well, wait a minute. I'm willing to make a compromise here. Take half of their money away. They rely on donors and so forth, and some sponsors. Just take half of their money away and give the rest to Larry Connors USA and NewsTalkSTL. And then I might be accepting it. They go ahead and point out by DHS that politicized NGOs, like another one titled Eradicate Hate, have been siphoning away taxpayer dollars far too long. We're ending the grift. In fact, the Invent to Prevent's website has a banner reading that the page includes archived content and that material on the site contains outdated information that may not reflect current policy or program. That was all part of the Biden push for DEI. And it came in so many different forms. Most prominent, advancing equity and racial justice through the federal government. An executive order which Joe Biden signed on his first day in office. Now, that one we know he signed. It was not robo-signed. He signed it. And he signed it to basically advance equity and racial justice. Executive order. And then what did they begin to do? To go across the nation into various schools and higher institutions of learning and push and slam dunk and smatter you across the face with diversity, equity, and inclusion has to be in everything. They got it inside our military. Pete Hegseth now eliminating it, stripping it out. They got it into all of our schools in one way or the other. And we're taking that out. And then, as I had pointed out in the previous hour, the Supreme Court has said it will take up the transgender issue, men participating in female sports at the college level or high school level in the next session. That'll be the coming fall. There are two different cases they're looking to, and each one involved a transgender male posing as a woman to compete in a track meet or something of that nature. Winning, getting to stand on the platform and say, I'm the winner, when we should all be standing around saying, you cheated. You cheated. That'd be like a wheelchair race for those who are confined to wheelchairs. And they're going to race, part of the Special Olympics project. And you decide, well, there's a transgender over here that sometimes feels that they need to sit in a wheelchair, but they're going to start the wheelchair, but then they're going to get up and run, and they're going to win the race in the wheelchair race, although they didn't use a wheelchair all the way. Would that be right? Can anybody justify that? Of course you can't. What we've had from this administration and the lackeys around it, well, we just keep pushing it enough, it'll become the norm. No. That's where we say it's not going to become the norm. And I'm glad the Supreme Court is going to take up these previous cases. And once again, in case you missed it, the University of Pennsylvania, as I pointed out the other day and again today, they have issued letters of apology to female athletes that got beat by a transgender participant, giving them a letter of apology, also giving them the awards, citations that they should have gotten. But the glory comes for anyone who competes. The glory comes is right after you finish the race or the event and you're in the applause and you're caught in the glory of it. Yeah, you're going to get a medal and everything else, but, man, I did it. Now they're going to get something in the mail that says, yeah, you did it. Here's your certificate. I would really hope, now this is not in front of the Supreme Court, I don't know how it will take place, but that there be some kind of punitive compensation for each of these girls that got cheated. But they're at least supposedly going to strip the titles at UPenn from a male swimmer that competed against the female swimmers. They're going to take away the titles and the awards and the honors. Yeah, but he's still got the glory to be on the podium, the applause for what there was. And the others had to stand to the side and witness a farce. Life is not fair. It is not fair. But when it's rigged, then we need to do something about it. Create a transgender category, if you want, and let them go at it. Go. And then you would truly have won something against other transgenders. But otherwise, you are a cheat. You cheat. And the administrations that went along with it because of DEI, universities threatened with losing Title IX funding, suddenly breaking down, saying, oh, we're sorry, because we don't want to lose those federal dollars. Tough. Just tough. You don't want to miss our next part dealing with terrible things.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545. 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545. 689-0545. Or go direct, priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. Replacing your windows and doors? Do not settle for ordinary. Go extraordinary. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson, a name trusted for more than 120 years. Their exclusive FiberX material combines the strength and durability of wood with low-maintenance features of vinyl. You get windows and doors twice as strong as vinyl, energy efficient, built to last. For a limited time, get 25% off every window, patio door, or entry door. No payments for 18 months, zero interest. This is their best new client discount. Dial pound 250, say the keyword windows, or visit rbastl.com. Pound 250, keyword windows, rbastl.com. Get your free estimate. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is NewsTalk STL.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
It is still amazing to many and absolutely shocking that Mamdani won the Democrat banner for the New York City mayor's race, which means probably will be the next New York City mayor. Muslim. That's not what the issue is. He is a Marxist communist, and he preaches from the sea, from the river to the sea, and preaches free Palestine. There's a Fox conservative that did an op-ed. I want to share part of it. Actually, we will try to have him on next week. I wanted him today, but schedules were conflicting. We're talking about David Bahnsen, Bahnsen. And he's issuing an urgent warning to the right after Zohran Mamdani's upset victory. He detailed the radical agenda, by the way, that he won. $8 price controls on chicken and rice, down from $10. Free public transportation citywide. Government-run grocery store chains. $30 hour minimum wage mandate. Rent freeze preventing any increases. Free universal child care. Massive tax hikes on corporations and wealthy Manhattan earners. As Bahnsen writes, it was a brutally honest campaign. He ran a fever swamp campaign of left-wing populist delusions, and it worked. He says that conservatives have set themselves up for failure by abandoning core principles. The fatal compromise, he said, once the bargain has been made, once the concession is granted, that yes, the government ought to be the key arbiter in the economic life, the left-wing populists are going to win the day. He said why the right loses the populism game? State power and grotesque economic interventions will always be done with more drama by the left than the right. And that's clear. I mean, look at Hakeem Jeffries declaring that he was going to hold the floor for the longest time. And he did for 7+ hours. I hadn't even bothered to double-check once he finally finished speaking. Let me double-check. I knew he'd gone 7+ hours, and I think it went, he wanted to make sure that he outlasted, I think maybe Schumer held the previous. I can't recall that, can't see it here, and I don't like giving you half facts. But he did draw out the debate for hours, and he was definitely trying to set a new record. Didn't really care about the votes, actually, on the bill. He just wanted to have the longest floor speech using his, quote, magic minute, which every member of Congress is allowed to do. So he did go for 7+ hours. McCarthy, that's who had the previous record, for 8 hours and 52 minutes, 32 minutes. That was on a Joe Biden plan to dramatically expand the social safety net. Yeah, they like to do it with drama and make things up. And there's a picture of Hakeem Jeffries, by the way, holding a baseball bat like he's ready to go to bat. I mean, or maybe going to use it on someone. No, he doesn't say anything like that, but the picture is him with a baseball bat. He's not a baseball player. Why is he holding a bat? That's a weapon. Do we need to outlaw baseball bats? Or make sure when you go to a baseball bat fight, you bring a gun? David Bahnsen continues in his opinion piece. Modern right-wing populism has embraced, quote, wage controls, price controls, soak the rich class warfare. All those are failed policies for reasons conservatives could historically explain. but his chilling prediction is here. He says this slippery slope will not stop with Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral mansion. It could very well end with an AOC or Mamdani in the White House. Think about that. Monson is a managing partner and chief investment officer of his own group, the Bonson Group. Frequent Fox News contributor, 5 best-selling books, including There Is No Free Lunch, 250 Economic Truths. And he's nailed it on exactly where we're failing and where we're letting the left, we let the left rail and everything, and that's what we don't call for boycotts. We don't get on the street and demonstrate. The closest thing would have been January 6th, and that did not have the proper controls on. And then how much of that was, now we question, was orchestrated by the government and federal agents being involved, posing as January 6th participants. We know there's video. There's video showing the agents taking Capitol Guard or whatever, taking a couple, quote, protesters into handcuffs, walking them into another room. And the video is there where they unhandcuff them and smile, shake their hand, and let them go. We know that. It's been documented. And I'm not saying we should get out in the streets and proclaim anything. I'm just saying don't let the drama take all the attention. Do something direct. There's a piece I was sharing that my boots on the ground correspondent in Chicago, Anthony, had sent me, a piece written by another author for his Substack and another group, Jacob Holland, and talking about anti-Zionism. It's for Tablet magazine. And talking about the open hatred of Jews is flourishing in periods of instability, when decency and decorum that protects them from assault from their fellow citizens is suspended. And that's what's been happening at our universities, why they were able to do that, because no one was enforcing what would be common sense. You cannot attack other students. You cannot bully. That is a premise at every elementary school. You cannot bully someone. And yet at the universities, yeah, go ahead. If you're going after a Jew, go ahead. Oh, but don't you dare say anything against anyone of the Muslim faith. You're Islamophobic. He points out on May 20th, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Efforts at the UN issued an urgent warning in an interview with the BBC. And I want to read it. There are 14,000 babies in Gaza that will die in the next 48 hours unless we can reach them with humanitarian aid. That was on May 20th. That claim was swiftly debunked, but it still went viral, spread far and wide by our legacy media across our nation, the United Kingdom, Australia. High-profile figures like Katie Couric with 1.6 million followers reposted it. And the next day, a couple that worked at the Israeli embassy, and you will remember this, they'd gone to a function at the Israeli embassy, and they're both Jewish. They were executed outside the Jewish Museum in D.C. You think there's no correlation? The man arrested admitted it. He said, I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza. Whether or not he bought into the lie that was told on BBC or he just bought into all the other lies. A recent Rutgers University survey found 55% of all self-identifying liberals believe, listen closely here, listen closely. A Rutgers survey found that 55% of those who identify as liberals believe killing is a justifiable means of pursuing political goals. It is not. I shouldn't have to say that, but it is not. Going into this Independence Day, it's a good time to sit back and evaluate who we are as a nation and as individuals. The White House spokesman Stephen Miller might actually echo your history.
I've spent my entire life in the conservative movement. Since I was a kid in high school, working, dreaming of the day where we could have a piece of legislation like what exists right now, what President Trump has brought to the precipice of passage. Each and every one of the individual titles in this bill would be considered one of the great achievements in the history of the conservative movement. The title, for example, building the missile defense shield for the United States of America so we can be safe, our children can be safe from foreign adversaries in this growing era of intercontinental ballistic missiles as nations race for supremacy.
Stephen Miller admitting that he'd always been a conservative. I can echo those sentiments. How about you? And I can be specific about mine. In high school, in 1964, yeah, I dated myself. I got held back 15 years before I graduated. Let me put it that way. Anyway, I'm a senior in high school. LBJ, I'm in Texas. LBJ is running for the White House against Barry Gold. Oh, you remember? Oh, I don't have to finish that, do I? Barry Goldwater. There is a picture in my senior annual. A good friend of mine, her name was Hillary. No, not that Hillary. But she was a big LBJ supporter. Hell, everybody in Texas was, for the most part, LBJ supporter. I was a Goldwater supporter because I believed in what he said. I didn't want to vote just because LBJ was a Texan. I wasn't able to vote anyway at that time, but we had our own in-school election, and we were doing campaigns, and there's a picture in our yearbook that there's Hillary holding a large poster of LBJ, and I'm sitting right next to her. We're both smiling. I mean, we're doing it in a civil fashion. I'm holding one for Goldwater. I got a lot of flack, but I didn't care. I thought I had made the right decision. And I have to give credit to LBJ. I think he's the only president who really could have gotten the 64 Civil Rights Act passed. I will agree with that. Because he could arm twist like no one's business. He'd been in Congress. He knew how to use arm twisting to get things done in Congress. But I was looking at the future, and I was not sure he was going to be strong enough for that. That was my mentality at that age. I'll tell you something else. I was watching last night while I'm sitting. This will come as a shock to you. But I was sitting with a bunch of guys knitting. Oh, I can't even say that without laughing. We were playing poker, okay? We were playing poker. But TV screens were on, and the soccer match was underway between USA and Guatemala. And I loved watching U.S. flags waving from fans and fans with U.S. flags draped around their shoulders or on their hats. I mean, there was such a display of U.S. patriotism. Now, granted, it was directed for the soccer team, but that is our team. That's America's team. And, of course, the Guatemalans were there representing their nation, their state, and their country, their people, as they should be. It was a sports match between two nations. And following that was a Mexico and Honduras match. And they were all waving their flags of their nations. That's what you would expect. But I loved seeing that many American flags in a stadium and people cheering. And I acknowledge it. The other countries had their supporters, and rightly so. They support their country. The question is, how much do we support our country going forward? Tomorrow marks 250 years since this nation began. And look where we are now. And my fear and question is, where will we be 250 years from now? Or even 50? Or 25? As always, thanks for listening. Remember our pledge: one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.